Okay, we're live. Okay, thank you, Sharoz, for your help here. And we're talking today. There is a huge frequency revolution about to happen in mainstream medical science. And I first read this study in an MIT journal. It was quite a while ago, and I read it. It was a study about. Here, I'll actually just share a screen here, and I'll show you the study where these scientists at MIT is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where they're using frequencies to treat Alzheimer's and cognitive illnesses. And the frequencies they're using are well within the range of a piano. And they used a combination of high pressure sound waves, which are driven by good coils and good magnets. And they use flashing LED lights in the study. And the study says they did treatments on mice. And the reason they treat mice is because mice have similar genetics to humans. That's why mice are used in all these medical studies. So, I'm not going to talk about mice tonight, but we're going to, because I'm trying to get rid of the ones behind my building here. But the study was positive, extremely positive. In fact, the article was published in Forbes magazine. I'm going to show you this, the Forbes magazine article, which just came out this past November. So remember, there's about to be a huge release of frequency studies at major universities for all sorts of different illnesses. So this is Forbes magazine, published November 8th, 2023. So this is just this past November, just before Christmas. Can light and sound therapy treat Alzheimer's disease? Part 2. I remember reading Part 1. So the very fact that it's in Forbes magazine means, and the study is peer-reviewed. It's a professional study. And I can show you the MIT page, Massachusetts Institute of Technology page, which is right here. And stop screen, present, share screen. Okay, right here. This is 40 hertz vibrations reduce Alzheimer's pathology symptoms in mouse models. Okay, this is June 5th, 2023. So this was just last June. And what the study shows, it's not 40 hertz. What the actual study shows is they used flashing lights and magnetically driven sound waves. So that's sound and magnetic at the gamma frequency ranges in the brain. And, we'll put the links up. The links up to these studies are all on my site. This should be the biggest news in the world, actually, because Alzheimer's and cognitive illnesses are one of the biggest problems in the world right now. They're one of the biggest problems in the world. In fact, there are all the drug failures, according to the MIT News, produce very moderate to low improvements in subjects. But the frequencies they use are in the 30 hertz range, which is the beginning of the gamma part of the brain. So the brain has delta, and then it has theta, alpha, beta, and gamma waves, right? So the frequency of the earth is theta, and that's where we dream, in theta. So the gamma part of the brain is a very active part of the brain. So the very fact that Forbes magazine, MIT, released this study, and I'm going to show you a way that you can do this, use the same technology on people who have cognitive illnesses. But the very fact that they're admitting the frequencies have an actual healing effect at a clinical level, at a medical level, is earth-shattering. It's earth-shattering. Because now I'm reading other companies are using frequencies to treat tumors effectively, cancerous tumors. And these are major, major players in the medical field. So we're sitting on the precipice of an age when we may see the end of ionizing radiation cancer, therapy treatments. I mean that's what some of these articles I'm reading are saying. So this particular study, I just see some new people came in, so I'm just going to share screen and show people where they're published. It was in Forbes magazine. The Forbes magazine article came out, Can Light and Sound Therapy Treat Alzheimer's Disease? And this was published November 8th, 2023 in Forbes magazine. And Forbes magazine is referring to a study done at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And the study shows three frequency ranges in the gamma part of the brain where the subjects are mice, and they use mice because if they work on mice, they'll work on humans. And so what they're doing is they're strobing LED light and using high density sound waves, and high density sound waves are driven by coils. All sound is driven by coils and magnets and paper cones. So what happens is the plaque in the brain that is inhibiting the brain signaling and impairing memory in these cognitive illnesses starts to come off. It's kind of like a brain plaque removal. And it makes so much sense that a pressure wave, a frequency wave would, because when frequency waves come into the body, the cells expand, contract. And in this process of doing that, stuff just starts falling away that shouldn't be there. So very, very simple technique. I'll demonstrate here in a second because I'm going to turn out the lights in my room and I'll show you what they did. So my systems on my website have been doing this for years. So this flashlight wand, which is very heavy, has a tourmaline crystal core, rubies, and a quartz crystal face, and it has a coil inside of it. And when I turn the lights out here, I'm going to run 40 hertz through this magnetically, and the lights behind me are actually, there you go. You can see them flashing, right? But you're not actually seeing 40 hertz because my video camera is 30 hertz and it's distorting the actual frequency. But you can see with a meter, my meter maxes out with the magnetic field coming off of this wand. So if you're going to treat somebody experimentally, because this is a medical study, peer-reviewed study that says this works. So it's a combination of sound, light, and magnetics. So I'm actually strobing the room with a series of lights that are plugged into an amplifier. And I have a little course that I'm offering to show people how to do this very inexpensively. And so you can treat people according to the MIT study. This is not according to me. This is according to the MIT study using light, sound, and magnetics and get very beneficial results with Alzheimer's and cognitive illnesses. It's really that simple. But there's a huge magnetic field coming off of this, you're not actually hearing any sound. I'm going to turn my light back on, turn my system off, and it's that simple. But what's not simple is the fact that doctors for nearly 100 years or more have been fighting the movement. They've been fighting the frequencies. It's funny because that's in the X-Files. They've been fighting the frequencies because they don't want it to be that simple, because it's really quite simple to set up a system like this for elderly persons and some non-elderly persons that are dealing with impaired memory and cognitive brain function. So, I think from also the other studies I'm reading on cancer, liver tumors, there's a company hitting liver tumors with frequencies and it's destroying the tumors. And these treatments are non-FDA approved, but they're available in hospitals all over the United States. So the shift that's happening that you can see in the research is they're finally getting it that frequencies do work if they're done correctly. And I'll point out that in the early days, Royal Rife would put audible frequencies on carrier radio waves to deliver them into the body. But the wavelength of the carrier radio wave was so massive, most of it was missing the body. And some of the new studies that they're doing now in fact, a lot of medical labs have duplicated Rife studies. I found the articles in the National Library of Medicine. What they found is using carrier waves is if you shorten the wavelength of the carrier wave so it doesn't miss the body, it actually has some side effects of drying up mucous membranes, and because it causes, the shorter the wavelength, the higher the frequency, the more the heat. And then you're heating up the body and you're drying up mucus and you're getting side effects. So they're getting more away from that and going into pure magnetic. See, to get a high density sound wave, you need a good coil. And a good coil drives a magnet and a paper cone, and then you get a really high pressure sound wave. But if you look at the MIT study, they just used headphones and flashing light. Now, again, because they're mice, I would say it makes more sense to use a magnetic, inductor coil, like I just demonstrated. This is a very small one. On my website, I have very big coils, which are very much more powerful. And so you can synchronize light, sound, and magnetic wave all at the same time to get the greatest results. But the fact is, in this study, they found that although they tested the 30 hertz range and the 40 hertz range and the 50 hertz range, and gamma brainwaves go all the way up to 100. And incidentally, in very advanced meditator studies done on Buddhist monks have really high gamma function in their brain. When I meditate every day, which I've been doing now for 45 years every day, I go into this extremely high ecstasy state, which is really intensely blissful, way, way, way out here into infinite consciousness. And that is gamma. That is gamma, the gamma part of the brain. So in cognitively impaired people, the gamma function of the brain is weakened. And that's probably because they're not exercising. Actually, when you physically exercise, you're inducing the gamma function of the brain to go up. When you're doing high mental focus, like meditating, the gamma function of the brain will go up. So the flashing lights, and you got to be careful. I'm going to have I have a little simple course. There's a link on my website you can see right here, davidsereda.co/MIT, where there's links to all the studies. And I have all the frequencies pre-recorded for people to use. Very, very inexpensive to do this. And I'll show you how to connect a LED light chip to a stereo amplifier and set it under a quartz crystal, because when light goes through quartz, this study was done by a physicist named Raymond Chow at Berkeley. And I spoke to Raymond Chow because I used to work for 20 years for an MIT legendary nuclear physicist, Bogdan Maglich, on nuclear fusion and very advanced detection systems. So that's where my training came from. So the bottom line is, you have to be careful when looking at a flashing light, that it's not too intense so as to harm eyesight, especially for an elderly person. All you need is a light amount of flashing, which is causing the brain to stimulate with the sound wave. So you put a pair of headphones on, and then if for more advanced, more penetrating, a magnetic wave will penetrate the body 1,000 times more than a sound wave, because a sound wave is a pressure wave, and that's good. because they used it in the study. And then in the study, they separated the sound from the light, and they still got benefits. But they found that combined was stronger, better benefits, which means if you add a magnetic inductor coil system to the mix of the three, it's going to be even better. In fact, I wrote the scientists in the study and I sent them to my website and I said, I'd love to see you guys test a magnetic wave coil in combination with the sound and the light at the same time. So MIT doesn't make systems and sell them. They're a university. When they publish a study like this, all of a sudden there's companies out there that have 40 hertz flashing lights. Now, if you read the study, it said most of the healing occurred in and around 40 hertz, but it means there's still some healing in the 30 hertz range and the 50 hertz range. So what I've done is I've just gone on the piano and I found all the frequencies that fit in the three major ranges of the study and pre-recorded the frequencies. So all you have to do is get those frequencies from my site. I'm selling this whole system for $40, which means all you need is an amplifier, a pair of headphones,
44.
44, and then I'm going to show you where to get the parts, the LED light chips that are really good, and you set them. You get yourself a nice quartz crystal. Of course, this is a really big one, and you put the LED light chip under there, and that means you're not limited to just 40 hertz, because whatever comes out of your amplifier that drives the light, the frequencies coming out of the light will all be the same. So what I wonder now, the fact that this is in Forbes magazine and MIT is released this to the world, why everybody isn't doing this, who is dealing with, elderly people that have cognitive illnesses. I mean, it's the word is out on the street. Make the systems, get people to buy them and use them. And for people who don't have a lot of money, it's as simple as getting an amplifier, getting the frequencies. The better the headphones, the better results you're going to get. So you get the best headphones you can. I recommend, AKG, or there's a lot of good brands out there now that make decent headphones. And then for the people who can afford it, add one of my coil systems to the mix, and then you'll get a magnetic wave at the same time. So with that, and the new studies I'm reading coming out that are showing the very fact that they're admitting that frequencies work means and beckons the question, well, what about other frequencies and other illnesses? Well, they're doing it. But they're way behind because a lot of people have had to endure the negative publicity, the fact that legally you cannot state in any literature that a frequency device is a medical device. In all of my literature and all the people who have used my systems, I can't legally use any of the testimony. And I just simply, in fact, I got published in a major press release that went out to Fox News, Digital Trends, Digital Journal, and it describes my technology as therapeutic pleasure technology. So you can legally say that this is therapeutic pleasure use, but it might actually do something else, but you can't legally say that. And that's the same. Like one of the devices I was looking at today that they're treating liver tumors with is in hospitals all over the United States, and it's not FDA approved, but it's in hospitals. Why? And this is also in some of the articles I've read on this study, the pharmaceutical companies are really upset. Why are they upset? Because none of their drugs worked very effectively. That means they didn't, some of them might have worked a little bit, but they didn't work anywhere nearly as effective as the MIT study using sound and light and magnetics. So there you go. They're not happy about this because it's inexpensive. And you can, of course, the better the amp you get, the better the quality of the light you get. That's why I would add a quartz crystal to your light. because when high density light goes through quartz, according to Raymond Chow at Berkeley in the studies he did, generates faster than light tachyon energy. Generating tachyons is that easy, but it has to be high density light. So we have all the links up. I wanted to keep this really short to about 20 minutes. It's really that simple. I really wonder how many people who are dealing with a person with cognitive illness function would be willing to try this out on them, because it's been, when something's tested on mice and it's peer reviewed, it's supposed to work on humans too. But the study does not say that we did a study on humans and we know it works. We just know it works on mice. So it's supposed to work on humans. So with that, I mean, if anybody has any questions, it's that simple. If you go to my website, you can get the frequencies, and I'm going to give a training videos that show you how to set it all up, and away you go. You have this little therapeutic device that people can use in their homes, and see what kind of results we get. Anybody have a question?
I don't see anything here
Yeah.
on here. What about using transducers for the vibroacoustic effects?
Well, a transducer just transduces sound to a physical pulse. Like I have one right here. I have lots of transducers. This is a transducer right here. But the study didn't say they used transducers. You could certainly play around with it, right? Like it makes sense that you could do that, because a transducer, I mean, my bed systems are all transducers. So they lie on 4 coils, which goes under a mat, and we put these big magnets in the coils, and that transduces the sound wave, magnetic wave, into a physical vibration, which is what a transducer is. So all of my bed systems are transducer already. And then all you got to do is work with these frequencies. And because one of the coils I have, a person's head is laying right there. Remember, when they used headphones, the central problem with Alzheimer's disease is the plaque that builds up in the brain. So the sound waves are going into the brain, and all sound drivers in headphones have many little coils in them, but those coils in headphones are very, very weak. But a transducer is a different thing, because a transducer is a magnet in a coil, is all it is, that causes a physical response. And that's what my bed systems do. Somebody said something about calcium here. Did they say something about calcium? Yes.
Yeah, you add one electron to calcium and it turns to potassium. Possible the sound can do this.
Well, see, it's the ion that we live on: calcium ions, potassium ions, phosphorus ions, sodium ions, sodium chloride ions. So all your electrolytes, again, because they're piezoelectric, which means when you pulse, the electrolytes in your body, they emit a bit of energy. And that energy is what the nervous system is running on. So yes, I tell everybody, before you do a treatment, make sure your electrolytes are up. Take some, magnesium, a pinch of salt. Um, Maybe I do know this about some people with Alzheimer's. I've read studies that if they eat blueberries, of course, blueberries are high in potassium. All your fruits are pretty high in potassium. They're seeing some improvement there just by increasing potassium. So again, all your electrolytes like potassium, sodium, magnesium, phosphorus, calcium, they need pulsing, which is piezoelectricity, to release the energy into the body. Like, I mean, I was born with not a liver disease. I was born with these growths in my liver called hemangiomas. So that's, my liver has been compromised my whole life. I'm 62 years old, and I've made it this far. It's not cancer, but I've been working with frequencies, and calculating frequencies. Somebody's asking, how does the light go off? Well, I have to show you how to set this up. So if you go to my website, you have to get a really good light, right? There's people already selling 40 hertz lights out there for $200, and you don't need to do that, because what I'm going to show you how to do is how to get really good quality LED light chips and plug them into your amplifier, and you adjust the volume. You don't want to stare at a really bright LED light. It could hurt your eyes and it could cause serious problems. So you adjust the volume to equal to the headphone volume. That's a nice level of pressure to get the 30, 40, and 50 hertz range frequencies. Comprehensive means that I have all the piano notes that are in and around those frequencies, as well as those exact frequencies already pre-recorded. You just have to download them and put them in a player and use them. So the light needs to be, I think everything should be high quality, right? If you want to do this as a test, because MIT released it to the world, you can do this yourself, then that's all you got to do. But it makes sense to run your light through a quartz crystal because, again, all crystal is also piezoelectric, which means when you run frequencies through a crystal, it also emits more energy. So the ultimate system would be an expensive system. I mean, I have, like, this wand back here is a quartz, lab grown quartz tube wand. It's behind me there. And that's real quartz crystal. It's not glass. I mean, I know people out there who have healing devices and they're just using man-made glass. So that's pulsing right now at 40 hertz. You can't really see the pulse that well unless I get my head in the way there in a certain way. And it has to do with the frame rate of my video camera. When I look at these lights, I've got 3 lights. I've got one on the really bright one is a quartz pyramid with a really good LED chip underneath it, and it's all plugged in. But by adding the quartz crystal to the light, it cuts the light down so it's not too intense on the eyes, but you're getting the added benefits, right? So again, you can't see the 40 hertz, and that's just because my webcam won't let you see it because it's pulsing at its rate and it just won't let you see it. But if I get my head in the way there, you see that? That's not 40 hertz. That's way slower than 40 hertz. 40 hertz. So the light bulbs in your house, let me turn this off. So the light bulbs in your house in North, this is what I wanted to know, because the light bulbs in Europe are 50 hertz. So the lighting in your house is 50 hertz. The lighting in your house in North America is 60. And those are both gammas. But this study said they treated people at 30 hertz range, 40 and 50, but most of the healing was occurring in and around 40 hertz. So, but that doesn't mean you should only use 40 hertz. It means you should use the full range. But I thought, okay, if Western civilization, our lights are already at 60 hertz, how come we have so much Alzheimer's in North America? And do they have less in Europe where they're 50 hertz, right? So I don't know the answer to that. But 50 hertz is still higher. Remember, they did 30, 40, and 50 hertz range in the study. So the lights in Europe are on the upper part of the study anyway. They already are. So that's interesting to me. That's why I think to really do this effectively, you need the
Tim,
pressure
someone's
wave, which is,
asking, how do you create a low frequency with a high frequency?
well, a stereo amplifier, for example, when you play music, it will play really low frequency. It'll play all your frequencies correctly, even though the electricity going into it is 60 hertz. But there's a transformer in there. And then the signals that come out of the speaker outputs on your amplifier are correct frequencies. I can test those on a meter. The beauty of a magnetic coil system is I can put out 1 hertz, 2 hertz, 3 hertz, 4 hertz, and no stereo speaker can do that. The problem with most people's stereos is the speakers start at around 40 hertz. They start there. And headphones, good ones will start at 20. Why you want to use headphones is what I'm saying. You can, if you plug a speaker in, most people's speakers, they're not even going to do 50 properly. They're not even going to do a well-tuned 50 unless you buy really expensive. I mean, there's stereo speakers out there that I like that are $200,000 a pair, and the speakers I have in my house are $2,000 a pair, which in reality are not high end speakers anymore. So, and most people are using the speaker in their iPhone is a total piece of junk. So you've got to use good headphones to do this, and preferably with a magnetic coil like mine, and a really good quartz light setup. Right? You see on my little amp over there, I've got a quartz crystal. It's a pyramid on top of the transformer. That particular amp has a transformer, and which means it sends out a nice magnetic wave. And then I got my light chip built into there. So you want to build anyway. I'll show you how to do this. You just go.
David, there's one more. Why are some LED lights therapeutic when the household LED lights can be damaging to health?
Well, there are some really crappy LED lights out there for sure. There's no doubt. Remember the weird thing about LED lights in the house is when you touch them when they've been on, they're super hot because they're transforming. They're taking 120 volts, right, out of the wall, and they've got to down sample that using resistors, what are called resistors, and down to a very weak current. So they if you come up to them with one of these meters and you put this meter in RF in the red, right? That's radio frequencies. And those radio frequencies there are coming from the Wi-Fi. You see that? That's RF. Those are radio frequencies. Now, when you come up to an LED light, you test it for magnetic, which is low frequency, and then electric, and then RF. And you'll see a lot of them are giving off radio frequencies, and they really shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. So that's what I mean. Some of them. So how far does it extend radius? Well, my magnetic coil has a huge radius. I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's okay. So I'm gonna run. I'm actually not running 40 hertz. I'm running an um an E octave really close to 40 hertz on a piano. So you can see on my meter here. I don't know if you can see this.
You
There you
can't
go.
see the
It's
number. There you
full
go.
activity. So if I take this away, I'm at 3 feet, 4 feet. I mean, I can measure this coming off this coil, and my coil is pulsing rubies, which then give off ruby energy, real tourmaline in the core. You know, these very famous little wands everybody's buying for $500 are just hair dryers with a glass tube inside. We took one of those apart, and it's total piece of junk. This has real tourmaline in it, lab grown rubies, and it's emitting a field at least effectively 15 feet in all directions. That is pulsing me right now with an E1 octave with the music scale tuned to A432. So all the frequencies I have that are in the 30, 40, and 50 hertz range, as per the study, are A432. So they're very precise numbers, and they're all ready recorded for you. So I really hope something. I'm really curious. I'm curious how many people are dealing with somebody who has cognitive illness, function failure. I wonder how many people will do this and really see, because it's MIT and it's in Forbes magazine and it's been in a lot of other press actually, and yet you'd think this would be rocking the world. All right, everybody, take a look. Go to my site. I hope we can help a lot of elderly people with this, which is why I know some of them have very limited incomes, but the amplifier does cost a bit of money. You have to buy those online. I'll show you where this little amp is a really good, clean amp. It's a tube amp. It's very small. I think those are about $350. I don't sell them myself. I just show you where to get stuff. So let's do this. Thanks for being here tonight.
Okay. Have a great night, everyone.